Yeah. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Welcome to the Lightforge podcast. This is Merps, and today we have the first four-person Lightforge podcast. Who do we got with us?
We have Adwikta.
Mm-hmm.
Boo.
Shadybunny. Hey guys.
Yeah.
And that is Collins.
All
right, so today with us, it's not just myself and Adwikta. We have the winners of the latest Twitch Rivals Arena event, Educated Collins and Shadybunny with us. Congratulations, guys, for winning the second event, which featured 40 teams of constructed players, arena players, IRL streamers, just a real mix grab bag of people. But after 6 hours of the first round, or 5 hours of the first round, and then like 7 hours altogether, Shady and Collins emerged victorious after dominating playoffs in which they just completely wrecked the competitions. Congratulations, guys. How does it feel?
Feels good, yeah. I mean, so it's a regular day for us. So
Yeah. Well, Collins is getting sort of used to it, right? Is like top 3 spot there. So
top 3, top 2 spot. Collins is top 2 spot at every Twitch competition that is held.
He does that, right? Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. So Collins just printing money off of Twitch with these events, with a second place during the first Twitch Rivals event, another second place, and finally first place because of Shadybunny, just pushing him over the edge. I will say, and we will get to this a little bit, we have the winning team with us, but we also have the highest individual scorer for the tournament here, who is, the grumpy arena player that you guys all know and perhaps love, Adwikta, with 29 wins over the 3 runs. You claim sole place of number 1, right? Almost 10 win average. So congratulations. You got something for it. I mean, you got a little bit of recognition from me, but that's about it. Congratulations on sort of getting number 1 in 80 people.
Yeah, it's last time Tex carried me. This time I was carrying him, but I did not carry him as hard as he carried me, and so we were only 9th overall as a team. But it feels good. It feels good to get all the wins.
Yeah, I feel like there should be like a little prize for the highest individual, score or something. Yeah.
They specifically do it, so there's like not even like the last time too, right? Like Nicolena got it the last time, and one other person that I don't even know the name of who tied Nicolena. But there were 2 people tied, and I only know Nicolena's name because they don't like have a chart of this anywhere. Like I have to go in and figure it out myself.
Yeah, it feels kind of weird, right? Like this is like the best thing you can do for the competition. There's no mention of it anywhere. There's, no discussion. You can't even find it unless you like try to like do it yourself or, find a spreadsheet or somewhere. But yeah.
Definitely. All right. So before we dig into this, I want to give people some context who might not have seen it. If you do want to see the competition, guys, you can see the VODs on any of our channels from our point of view. But if you want the official VOD, you can go to twitch.tv/Twitch Rivals and go to Wednesday's video. But what we're talking about is Twitch Rivals event, which was 40 teams featuring 2 players. Each player has to draft and play 3 runs, no rerolls, no redrafts, and the highest combined scores of the 6 total runs. Whatever 4 teams have the highest scores, they get to go into a playoffs where the semifinals are single elimination and the finals are best of 3. And then
so let's break this down. So there's 2 parts of the competition, right? First, it's like the same thing as we did back in January, where everyone just plays arenas, except now you just have 3 runs. That's the difference. You don't get to re-roll. You don't get to do your first one over if you go fast. You have 6 hours to do 3 runs, and if you're slow like me, that's kind of not enough. I actually got cut off at the very end, but I went on to lose the games anyway, so it doesn't matter. But after that is the kind of head-to-head competition where you draft decks, but it's an open deck list, and you face your opponent. And Collins and Shadybunny did not just place first, in the regular arena portion. But then they also went and actually beat the other 3 teams in the tournament style finals at the end. So let's
Well,
talk.
they didn't place first in the first portion.
We placed second in
Oh.
the first
Yeah,
portion.
second over.
Wait,
we
who
held
placed first?
for quite a while, but then they snuck past us at the end.
Who placed first in the first portion?
Ngowello and Unid or
That makes sense.
Mhm.
UN33D.
Yes. So they were the number 1 team. Collins and Shady were the number 2 team. Language Hacker and Toast Monster were number 3, and Hibadino and Luca Marceau was the number 4 team.
Okay, that makes sense. That Collins placed second. I thought we had broken this curse.
So really, Collins, you were second once again, but due to this sort of playoff thing, like that, you were able to break the curse. Had they just done the essentially limited it to the 3 runs, still would have been number 2.
We'd still be talking about this curse. Oh man, that's actually disgusting. And okay, so there's another factor to this I wanted to bring up. I don't know if this is like the best time, but the rewarding structure, they changed the rewarding structure, right? They used because they weren't expecting 40 teams, right? So the rewarding structure got dropped a little bit to give everyone who participated some money for playing. And I looked at it, right? The original rewarding structure, the reward we got for first place would have been second place's rewards.
Yeah.
Always second, Collins.
In a sense, it's still second.
Oh my gosh. This is some sort of like Groundhog's Day sort of like nightmare. Always second place. But you know what, Collins? Thank you for splitting up some of your would-be first place prize to give to those people who otherwise wouldn't have got any money. So I thank you for $50.
No.
All right. So look, that is the structure of the tournament. I want to bring it back, sort of talk to you guys from the beginning, because this thing was announced with very little time to prepare. It was essentially a week or less than a week when it was announced. So you guys had different partners for Twitch Rivals previously, right?
Yeah.
Both of you guys had different partners. And when this came out, people were scrambling to find partners pretty quickly. Did you guys know at that moment, it's like, all right, this is our time. This is time for us to combine our powers and just crush everyone. How did this pairing come along?
Okay, so I think I was notified first. I actually got notified by my previous partner to play. I'll be honest. I got notified by him, and he was like, I would love to play again. And I said, could you hold on one day? I need to ask one person before I can come back to you. So he was like, he was like, okay. But then eventually he was like, I found a partner before I even could talk to Shady. So I kind of knew instantly that I wanted to see if I could get a partner with Shady. But due to the way it worked last time, since we were both invited, we had to pick different people. But this time I got to talk to Frodan, and I asked him if I could partner up with Shady. He said it was okay. So once I got the A-OK, Shady was like, yeah, for sure.
Of course,
Yeah. It wasn't even a discussion. It was just like, yeah.
I just tell people I was drafted by Collins, right? It's just like, yeah. I'll draft you before they send you an invite.
I think for a lot of the community, this is like a very natural pairing. The two of you guys, because you guys play together a lot, you guys already have synergy, right? When we talk about co-ops between arena players, I think the 4 of us are typically, people think of the 4 of us. So that was really cool. You guys just got together, and what was the preparation like? Because I saw you guys during streams practicing, but was there any secret strategy behind the scenes that we didn't get to see on your VODs?
Yes. I would say we did some kind of extra secret strategy like the day before the tournament, just kind of doing some discussions and some like last minute.
Okay, Collins, you don't have to be so like shady about this anymore. The competition's over. We can reveal your big secret sauce strategy now.
No, it's more like Collins is like, well, I did homework and I'm ashamed of it. I truly am, but I did homework.
Killing into his rep about just showing up and then dominating.
No, it's so. I feel like I'm a much more technical player than Collins.
Yeah,
like Collins plays more from the heart, right? I'm more like, all right, let's look at the numbers.
I am very technical. I just don't tell people about it.
I like to keep it.
No, we're blowing his cover right now.
Don't tell me. I like to really know what kind of a curve I'm looking for, especially in this kind of meta. So for me, the last day was more just Stein was also in on the call. He has a lot of experience with a couple of the classes we wanted to play. So we pretty much singled out Mage, Druid, Paladin, and Rogue. And we said if we hit something else, tough luck, right? Like we sort of know how to play it, but if we want to win, we're assuming that we're going to hit those classes. And I did, and Collins did as well. I don't think we had to play anything out of that. So that was a huge part of it. We mathed it out, and it wasn't super unlikely. So it was reasonable to assume that if we were going to do well, we were going to hit those classes. So yeah, I had a little document knowing what number for each for all the curve slots. Like I knew how many ones for that class, how many twos for that class. And then just little side notes, like for instance, Druids, I reduced 5s because Blessing of Ancient is pretty good there. Same with Paladin, you can get Seal of Champions to fill your turn 5 with. And Rogue doesn't really have that, so you want to increase 5s there, etc. So that was mainly the prep, just having a document, and then also a little bit of studying VODs of other people that were doing really well. I'm not sure who Collins looked at in total, but when we looked at it together, it was Team America, when it was just on a rampage, just getting a couple 12s in a single stream. I was like, okay, that's good. Let's have a look there.
If you guys weren't aware, Team America is a streamer and Infinite player who very recently got #1 on the leaderboard. So, that seems very reasonable that Shady and Collins would be over there.
I lost to him during the tournament.
You did?
Yeah, so he cursed me out with a zoo, right? And then slams 2 Krakens at the end. I'm like, must be nice. So he just, just a proper zoo deck with 2 Krakens.
So this is what happened in the tournament for those who weren't watching and haven't watched that. By the way, it's on Twitch Rivals, the channel. They have the VODs on there. If you go and you watch, it's great. They cover a lot of places. You can also watch all of our individual streams. Mine will be on /Oddwick, Rips is on /Grinning Goat. Shadybunny is on /Shadybunny, Educated Collins on /Educated Collins. So this competition just has everyone's perspectives and the main perspective. And the main perspective was Dreads was one of the hosts. So unlike last time, we got a full, very well-informed, great arena perspective. He was trying to keep it, on the down low, but we had a cheerleader for us the entire time on the main show. So that was really nice to see. But as part of I don't know if this was intentional or not, but they gave us all new accounts that were special quote-unquote god accounts with all golden cards, which was wonderful to play with. I really want a freaking full golden collection now. But I think they were all fresh accounts that had not actually played arena before. So if you remember, there's it's not a special arena pool, but it's as if you have 1 extra loss when you start playing in a new account. So we all entered the arena at all 80 people started the draft at basically the same time. It was a tight time competition. If you wanted to do well and you wanted to delay your start for strategic reasons, you may not finish. So we all basically started at the same time with these special accounts that were already 0-1. And so especially in that first run, everybody was facing each other. And you could tell when you were facing someone because we all had full golden cards. It was something patron was their naming convention. So some adjective and then patron. Whenever you see that, you knew you were facing someone from the competition, and it really amped up at least my anxiety, especially in the first run when we were all timed the same exact way. I think I ended up facing 7 or 8 even. It was there was almost more patrons than non-patrons in that first segment that I was facing, and I ended up I get told this by chat after it happened, but I ended Collins's run his first run, and I was like, oh crap, because I don't know who I was facing when I was facing them. And it was like a ridiculous game. At that, I think I board wiped him like 3 times. He was a paladin. It was really like you didn't stand a chance once I got my cards. But yeah, afterwards, like, hey, you knocked Collins out. I was like, what? What? No, I didn't mean to do that.
Meanie.
It was a rough day. It was like a really rough day, or like there was a lot of clashing, right? A lot of like players faced each other, which is exactly what Twitch rivals wanted. I started off 0-2. Might be one of the reasons that I didn't play so well, but I started off 0-2. I think there were quite a few 0-3 runs, 1-3 runs between all the contestants. It was pretty tough. Do you guys feel the same way?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I feel like the competition was a little bit higher, especially with all the arena and constructed players you could fight through it. And definitely, I felt like people were trying as well. I think a lot of the people that were playing knew the event was happening, right? So they didn't know like who they were fighting, but they knew, oh, the people I'm gonna fight are good. So let me put on my best effort and try to win. So there were a lot of games where I'm like, this is a hard game, and I know like there's no cheating involved. It's like, damn, these people are actually like really trying. Another thing I want to mention is I did watch the whole VOD for the event after I was done. So for the people who haven't watched it yet, I do recommend it. It was quite great, and Dread's like overperformed in the role that he was given. So go take some time out of your day. Very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think we can talk about that a little bit before we go back to lavishing praise on the two of you guys. So this event, I think one of the biggest improvements was that Twitch and Frodan took feedback from the first one, which was the commentating from the last Twitch rivals, the second Twitch rivals, essentially. It was missing a real arena perspective. The commentators tried to keep it entertaining and tried to engage the audience, but they just didn't really know the arena meta. And this time they asked Dreads to be a commentator. And first of all, he looked really sharp in that blazer, but more importantly, he provided consistent and entertaining and very poised commentary that I think, number one, well represented the community. Number two, really showed the deep strategy behind it. And number three, hopefully piqued people's interest within the arena after seeing like a lot of these great performances and really good moments. Like Collins, you had one of them as well with Stone Tusk Boar. But that's what I'm hoping. Through Dreads' really good performance, we get more interest in the arena as well.
It was great. It was just night and day compared to last time. I think we're talking about it where last time at the start, the casters didn't know what Violet Worm did in that meta. Where it's like, oof, right? Like there is certain thresholds in that, it definitely that was pretty low. Just I feel like that's a baseline, right? Knowing what's one of the most meta defining cards does. So yeah, this was a great change. Absolutely.
Yeah. Did you guys feel any difference while competing though? Because from the audience point of view, it's obviously super different. But when you guys are competing, did you feel any different? Adults, I know you like just have the robe on and you're just sitting there.
Oh no, I felt super different.
You did?
Because I faced one person last time that I knew was from like someone else in the competition. This time, in the very first run, I faced 8 people. And like, Shady and Collins were talking about how like, hey, if you need to do well, you have to get one of these top 4 classes. So I don't consider Paladin as part of that class. But I did have my like top list, and like Rogue, Druid, Mage were definitely up there. And I wasn't offered any of them, and I wasn't offered Paladin either. And so I ended up having to take Warlock. And so I was like super nervous. I did not get a great Warlock deck. I had like an average Warlock deck, and it was a class I had played once before in Rise of Mechs. And I just kind of went with it, and it ended up going 11. So it was, and then I knocked a lot of people. Like I beat a lot of like people in the tournament, because I think everybody who was in the tournament was actually on this like, you gotta curve out, you gotta be on the board, you gotta push your opponents. Like things were really fast. like even more fast than normal arena, and my deck just kind of countered that. Not exactly a well-defined strategy, but I kind of just ended up with that kind of deck. But I was still very nervous, just because it's arena. I'm not used to facing people who are good. You know?
Yeah, right.
Like, my OO game, I saw someone with a Patreon. I'm like, oh crap, I'm facing someone who's in the competition. I wonder who it is. I still don't know who it is. I got blitzed and destroyed. It was like over by turn 5. Like, this guy had like a very well-tuned rogue deck with like tinkers and like everything. And then after that, the very next game when I was 0-1 was against another patron. I ended up winning, but like by the skin of my teeth. And after that, I was in a very, like, I was almost tilting after I was 1-1. Just because of how hard the competition was at that point. And I think I mean, it's not arena, right? Like, it's the same rules as arena, but in that few, like, especially the first run, the first half of the first run, you were really in a spot where you were using arena rules, but you were facing really good people. And
Yeah, definitely.
and
Sorry, go on.
they tried to do something similar to it at the very end, right? Like Collins and Shady, where you guys had head-to-head matchups with the other top 4 players, but there was an open deck list, and it made it like even less like arena-like. But that opening run, I felt like, was what arena could be if there was like a tournament mode, and that kind of adrenaline rush and that kind of punishing amount of like competition, right? I don't know if I like it, but it definitely felt very different to me.
Yeah. How did you guys feel during the initial 5 hours?
It was rough. I think we both had like sort of a weird start because Collins like had a really bad start, right? I think we had a close call for 1 and 3, right?
I started 1 and 2.
Yeah, we had a close call for 1 and 3.
Yeah.
So that was dodged. And when I started my mage draft, I had just practiced control mage. I felt no need to practice anything else. But then the first 10 cards were so weird and so bad. But we have a fireball, and Collins and I are drafting it together at that point because I'm like, what's going on here? And suddenly we end up with 3 fireballs. It's just something I hadn't practiced. But halfway through the draft, Collins was just like, you have to go face with this, right? You can't do control. So we picked the fireball over a flame strike and just full all in. And it was really close. Like at one game where I had to, double Ray of Frost his board, go face next turn, double fireball, or else I wouldn't have gotten there. So I definitely noticed that. And I think I'm sort of lucky that my deck was like that, because I feel like a lot of the time when you play against more random people, they have this random heal bot. They have this random bad card that you normally, wouldn't draft, but because they're not very optimal. Whereas I think a triple fireball deck actually performs quite well against these more optimized curves that don't have this fluff like a heal bot lying around. So I did lose
that's
to
fair.
some healing, but I feel like it was less than it would normally be.
All right. So you mentioned that it seems like you guys talked to each other a little bit during this. Did you guys help each other out a lot?
During the
yeah.
drafts, we definitely did.
The drafts it made I'm a weaker drafter than Collins most of the time. I feel like I'm really good at very specific, precise things, but Collins is better at looking at the macro. Like, for instance, looking at that deck and being like, yeah, this, we need to go face with this, right? And then I can sprinkle in more specific advice. Like, for instance, Druid, I'm naturally more of an aggressive player than Collins. So the Collins rolled a Druid for his last draft, and it's like, yeah, let's draft this together.
Yeah, I just stopped. I was like, I'm gonna wait for shit.
Yeah, and that worked out really well because there were a couple picks there that I believe the deck would have been weaker. That looked very natural, like pick a Kraken. I was like, I don't really like Kraken and Druid. Like, it's okay if you really need it, but it's more like a last resort thing if you don't get any scribes or you don't have roar, etc. And I think we got both of them in that deck. So
yeah, and in terms of how I felt during it, I definitely felt okay. So normally I don't really feel like pressure. I go 1 and 3, 0-3 all the time, so it's not a problem. However, once I hit 2 losses in all of my runs, I was like, okay, time to take off the headphones and try. That's when the pressure starts, like, because that's when I know, okay, I could fail. But anytime before that, it didn't really matter or didn't really affect me. It's just like when I know I have like that last chance, that's when it's time to go.
I had 2 heartbreaking losses in my druid run where it was one-off lethal 2 times. I was just like, oh,
That's the worst
1
feeling.
damage points. And it's crazy how much further a run could go, right? Like,
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
instance, Collins top decked that boar, and I think he got 2 or 3 extra wins out
I
of
got
that.
3
He
extra
came-
wins.
3
Yeah.
extra wins. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, like, oh man, one-off lethal in 2 of my druid games as well. It was brutal. So yeah, I definitely experienced it. It was a brutal first couple hours.
All right.
So
Also,
wait,
like,
so Collins, you
that-
started off
Collins,
1-2.
Yeah.
Merps, you started off 0-2.
yeah.
I started off 2-2.
I started off 6-1, and then I got wrecked. So yeah, at the start I had the fireballs to carry me, and it was enough. And then I met some more resistance.
It was a pretty rough start. All right, I want to fast forward a little bit. So after the initial phase 1, right, round 1, the seeding comes out. You guys are in the top 4. Like, it doesn't really matter, right? The goal of the first phase is to just get into the top 4, and then
Okay, before we get there, I just have a genuine question because I don't know exactly. Like, what were each of your 3 decks? Can you describe each of your 3 decks in the first part of the competition before we move on to the second part of the competition?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's not a question I've gotten.
Right?
So
People
the-
keep focusing on the big picture stuff. I'm like, I kind of wanted the nitty gritty. Like, Shadybunny was talking about the fireball deck, right? Like,
Yeah. So I had the fireball mage to start off with. Then I had just an okay druid deck that went 5 with those 2 games where it was one off. Like, I can pull up with deck tracker.
Yeah, I could share my decks as well.
And then the last deck was a nasty control mage where I'm like, yes, this is what I practiced. So that was spot on. It had 2 portals, it had a Conjure's Calling, it had a Blizzard. The curve was spot on as well. So it was very, very nice.
I would say all of my deck's qualities were pretty good. The first deck I had a paladin deck. I lost to AoE. Pretty much that was the only losses. But it had a cog hammer, it had a mustard, it had 2 seals, it had 2 murloc knights.
What-
Just like very good. It didn't have 1 drops. I
how
would say
many
that was maybe
how many wins did you get with that?
I got 5.
Okay, yeah.
You knocked me out.
Because I knocked you out. I was like, you didn't do that well. Because I remember I didn't knock you out too late. That's why I felt really bad. But that sounded like a really good deck.
It was, but the first loss, I lost to a paladin with double consecrate and just insane quality. It was like I was not expecting to lose that game at all. And then I lost to a mage with just flame strike and mage shooting star and flame strike. So just like and cone of cold, just like AoE out the wazoo. If we didn't fight those AoE decks, we would have done a lot better. Our second deck was I would say was honestly quite insane. I drafted like mech rogue, like classic mech rogue. I had I don't know, maybe like half the deck was mechs. I had a snip snap, 2 saps as well, and a kidnapper, and then
You had
missile
2
launcher.
saps?
2 saps.
They
and
do that still? Oh my god.
I never even looked at this deck. It sounds amazing. You just told me I got the nuts. I was like, okay, good.
I got a mech warper, like 15 mechs, Iron Sensei, 2 saps, Jeeves, missile launcher. It was just an insane mech deck. We went 12-1, so it just kind of rolled over people. And then our last deck was a druid deck that I drafted with Shady. I was a little worried because we weren't getting buffs at the beginning, but we ended up with 2 powers and 2 savage roars, as well as 2 scribes, and then we also had 2 living roots, and the stone test boar, which was super critical.
Very important.
Yeah, very for the deck. So I would say overall the draft went really well for my decks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I my first 2 drafts, they weren't that great. Like, because I practiced with Druid and I almost never got too heavy because it's really rare that you get good quality late game. I feel for like the late game I wanted for Druid. So that's Scribe, sort of Bulbafist Ogre, and Starfire. So those are the cards I pick, and I don't pick too many Starfires if I get the Scribes. So I picked the Starfire early, and then Bulletfist Ogre is pretty rare, so I just pick it usually because it's not really Scribe, but it's good enough, right? So then that particular deck ended up with 2 Starfire, Scribe, and 2 Bulletfist Ogres, which is weird. But then I was forced into a Mukla on top of it, and for how fast the I feel like if I'd thrown this deck into regular Arena, it would have performed quite well because you can be a tad heavier. But I'd already predicted for the event I wanted to be like, if I had a range for how, like, let's say I would have 4 to 6 late game cards, I would gravitate more towards the 4 because I felt that everyone's curves were going to be a bit more optimized. It was better to be a little more consistent with the early game. So that deck really suffered there. Where, if you're playing against a good player and you skip turn 3, it's going to hurt you a lot more than if somebody is not taking the full advantage of the curve.
Yeah, I think you're right about everyone's curves being more optimized in the competition. Like I know like every time I saw a deck, it was definitely of a better quality, and not like quality based on card quality, right? Because if you have good players, then the players you bump into at 5-2 are better players with worse decks, not better decks with worse players. So it definitely shifted the pool a bit. I had Collins' deck without the saps, like down to the snip snap for my last rogue deck. Like I finished drafting it and I was like, crap, I have like a little less than 2 hours. I don't know if I'm gonna finish this deck, like this run. And I didn't finish. I ended up being 11-2, and I was 11-0. And then I felt really rushed to like win one game really fast. And then I think I made some misplays and it was 11-2.
Yeah,
and then
we were watching and we saw how people were roping. I was like, oh, come on, right? And it was funny, right? Come on, for me, right? I used to rope all the time, but even I was getting like, come on, play the cards, man.
Oh my god, there was a guy who roped every single turn. And then the chat was like, but you're also roping every single turn. I'm like, how are you complaining? And I'm like, but I'm thinking through my turns. Okay, fine, he's probably thinking through his turns too. It's like 12, it's like 11-2, right? Like that's the game you sit down and think for. But it didn't really matter ultimately. I had one no pressure game at the very end after the time had already expired, and I lost that one too. So it was an 11-3 deck ultimately. And my other 2 decks were that Control Warlock that did really surprisingly well. Because I think when you say like the entire field goes more curve heavy and more like consistent on the curve, you end up with a really good situation for control decks that end up being able to draft those board clears. Yep. So then I ended up having enough board clears.
People running for force tanks, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's usually the control killers. People who randomly have too much late game.
Yep. And without that, like, there's so many games in which I just like get hurt a bunch and then drop my 2/6 taunt, mech taunt with lifesteal, and then I'm like, okay, so I win now because you've just given me 6 health and I've taken away like 10 damage that I would have taken, and I'm gonna wipe your board the next turn and it's over. And then the middle deck I had was a Rogue 7-win. That was the one that didn't do so well, and I got stuck with a sprint early on, and I had to move my whole deck very, very aggressive. And the card quality wasn't there, and it was just kind of like sometimes it gets, it's just kind of a mediocre deck.
Okay.
It is interesting how you're actually able to predict a different meta because of the fact that this tournament is going on and you have 80 people starting to play at the same time. It actually does create a separate meta. As you saw,
it's also 80 people in the middle of the day. It's like at noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. like West Coast time. And it's on NA, so like in Europe it was like prime time, but most Europeans are not playing on NA.
All right, so we've heard all about your decks. I won't talk about my deck because I didn't place that well. Actually, I think my individual score tied shape.
Your individual score was fine. We did this, right? Like, we ran it back. Like, if we were a team together rather than with our separate partners. So Merps was with Kibler, by the way. He didn't... they play so low that Merps is ashamed to bring Kibler's name into this.
Well, he's not here. I will say I was very proud to be with Brian Kibler, the Dragon Master Kibler. It was like a ton of fun. That was one of my priorities. I was like, all right, I want a guy who, number one, can definitely hold his own in the arena, and number two, is also a fun guy as well. So definitely not Adulta.
Yeah, that's why he crosses off the list.
Yeah, that's why Adulta was never a selection. And unfortunately, Collins snagged Shady first. So,
but yeah, we ran it back, and if we had been in a team together, we would have tied Collins and Shady's original like initial for round 1 score. I had two
we
more.
would have tied the first place.
Oh, was the first place 1 or 2 above Shady and Collins?
Two above.
Two above? Okay. Okay, yeah.
First.
So you got Shady's score then, because that was 2 above Collins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what'd you end up doing? What were your classes?
I got Rogue first, and then I got Shaman, and then Paladin.
Okay.
I went 5, 7, and 9 for a 7-win average.
Okay.
Yeah, 7 wins is a solid average to get on the spot, right? With all the RNG and all the it was just harder. I think this was definitely harder than if you just queued into an arena.
Oh, definitely.
I think another thing is that at least some people were prepared and they had a sick deck waiting. Yeah. So if you didn't queue into a participant, you might have queued into an enthusiast.
That's true.
I got the Quad Warper deck.
I'm so confident that was my first opponent. My first opponent was a dude who drafted a super sick deck and was just waiting for the competition to start, and then hit me with it, and I was just like, "Whoa, what is this?" The deck he played was so strong. I was just like I thought I had a really good Paladin deck, and he also had a Paladin deck, and it was just like, what the? He's counting every play. I was like, what the? So I think that is true. There are some people that are just holding on to their god decks. And
it makes that first run even more painful because second run they've burned through those decks, right? So they're probably redrafting to try and get someone again, but it's not going to be as powerful.
That makes sense because the first round everyone's averages were so low.
And
then by the end it's oh, did 10 people get 12-win runs? What's happening here? There was a guy. I've told the story 4 times by now, but literally, I streamed on Twitch.tv/Adwikta, which has not seen any action since the last Twitch Rivals, and had not seen action for 2 whole years before that. No one is following Twitch.tv/Adwikta. So I check in on the day of, and I'm on my Twitch dashboard for streamers, and I'm looking at my follower list, and it's last follower was Tex, my teammate, who I guess decided to follow my channel. And the one before that was from 3 days ago. The one before that was from many months ago. But the one from 3 days ago was Sniper Z19. So I was very sure that I was going to get sniped at some point, or at least an attempt was going to be made. There's definitely people, and if you're more I'm sure the people who are bigger than we are, we're going to get sniped even harder.
Yeah.
Yep. So crazy day overall. Lots of interesting games. I definitely urge you guys to check out the main channel and check out VODs to know exactly what we're talking about. I mean, Collins, you had a crazy game. I won't spoil it to encourage people to watch it, but that's kind of the first phase. I want to talk about the next phase now, where after the first phase, Collins and Shady ended up second place, so they moved on to the 4-team playoffs. What was your strategy going into that? Because the rules are completely different. Adam, do you want to tell us how the rules are different first?
Okay, so you draft a deck, right? It's now a co-op. Before it's a team event, but you're really just doing totally separate things. I know Shady and Collins actually helped each other out a bit in the draft, which was I think a huge deal. Me and Tex didn't even think to do it because we won last time without doing it, and so we're we're gonna do the exact same thing as last time, down to the exact number of seconds we set for the delay. We're just gonna run it right back. And really, if we had to talk to each other, I really would not have finished. I didn't finish as it is. If you had to add some time into it to talk to people. Anyway, in this competition, the final 4 gets put into a playoff style bracket where there's a semifinals and then a finals. They are actually co-oping. They're running one deck for 1 game in the semifinals and then for 2 games in the finals. And so you redraft a deck, and then you face your opponent for your semifinals. The deck list is open. You're not allowed to take illegal decks, so you can't have 2 copies of a legendary or 3 copies of a regular card in your draft. And then the actual finals were done conquest style, which means all of your decks have to win. They have to go through. I think the biggest. I'll let Collins and Shady look at this, but for me, like when I looked at the rules, the biggest difference was the open deck list, because that kind of like that's not arena anymore at that point. You're now in like a different limited format.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, so
Absolutely.
before I knew we were top four, I hadn't even read what the rules were. Like, what's the point of reading if you're not gonna make it there? Sorry,
Just
but
imagine we don't make it. That's like a couple of seconds wasted, right?
yeah,
Reading that thing.
exactly.
Yeah,
All
for
right,
sure.
but once I realized I didn't actually know, I was asking Shay, what's conquest, and Shay's like, oh, it's this, but this. I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to understand, because I don't really pay attention to any constructed whatsoever. So all of the terms are just like no idea, right? But it's easy to like translate it. So I knew. So one person had to pick the draft. I was wondering if we could like look at our classes first, like buy a ticket and then see the classes and then pick. But they said no, you had to like kind of one person had to buy, and you couldn't like choose between it. You have to pick an account and then use that account, right? So I knew for sure I did not want to be the mouse, because I know, between me and Shady, who's gonna be the better at micromanaging, making that final decision. I was like, easily Shady. I can just be that voice in his head telling him, maybe this is like somewhat better. But other than that, I knew, okay, if we're gonna do this team composition, super comfortable with Shady taking the lead there. And he just, blew it out the water. I remember there was a particular turn that we were talking about it. It was getting down to the wire. She was like, okay, I'm gonna, and I was like, this is why he has the mouse. So
Yeah, and keep in mind, at this point, everyone had been playing Arena and streaming for 6 hours. Like before this semifinals and finals happened. So like I was so burned out at that point. I can only imagine you guys, especially with the pressure escalating.
it wasn't that bad for me. I know it was a little bit different for Shady because the time zones didn't really work in his favor. But for me, I stream that amount of time like almost every stream. So and actually the tournament starts when I usually start streaming. It was so it was actually super easy for me because I did not really have to change my schedule whatsoever. It was like another stream day, except there's money on the line. So I had the easiest time.
Yeah, I spent about a week trying to move up my sleep schedule because usually by the time phase one ends, I'm already in bed. So I figure like if we're gonna make it through to phase two, I need to be up at least for another couple hours. So it worked out this time, so it was good. It's
You
definitely worth
certainly
the
looked
investment.
energetic at the end. One of the key moments that was on the big screen was you, Shady. You were the person that they focused on at the very end, throwing your hands up in victory. But before we get there, I'm curious, what were some sort of considerations, especially during the draft,
Oh
because
yeah, for sure.
this
Okay,
is
yeah.
totally
So
different, right?
when we are so the way how it worked was we first start drafting and we don't know anything about what the other people are doing, right? But once you have your first draft done, you will always have your opponent's first deck as information for your second draft. So the semifinals, that was just okay, if we see Rogue, we go with Rogue because it's going to be even better against good players, because I feel like Rogue loses to like weird things happening a lot of the
Yeah.
time. But if it's just like, okay, we're going to fight for the board and whoever gets the board is going to take it, and there's going to be lots of early game pressure coming at us, Rogue's just good. And we figured out that that was going to be very, very true for the semifinals, and we hit Rogue, very lucky. And we play against Hibaldino's team, and they have two flame imps, and we start with like coin dagger, and we have a barber in our hands, right? So it's like, okay, well,
Ooh.
we're just gonna farm that early game board. So that was just an unfair match. That was Rogue holding off a zoo, just never really in trouble. They just had a shadow flame in their deck, so we knew to play around it. So I made this really weird trade where we jammed the 5/3 into a 3/3, just because it would be awkward if the Shadow Flame would come down, and we knew that was the only way that we're going to swing it back. So that was definitely an advantage for open deck lists. That's a trade that normally you probably wouldn't make.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then for the draft, for the second part, that was really big because we knew we were going to be up against Language Hackers team, and they had this nasty mage deck with like double calling, double kraken. It was very, very powerful.
Yeah.
But then we noticed something. They actually have nothing to stop like a full spread aggressive push. There was no Arcane Explosion, there was no Blizzard, there was no Flame Strike, there was no Shooting Star, no nothing. Just
They didn't even have the piggy.
yeah,
Like, there
no,
was-
yeah, that's another one we looked at.
Yeah.
We looked at, okay, do they have Hawk's Teeth? Do they have Horse Rider? Are they going to punish our 3/2s? So they didn't. They didn't have any punish for 3/2s. So for the Druid deck, we decided to go very light, very aggressive, because if they can't get their mage through, we win. It's Conquest. They have to win with both decks. So our Rogue was fairly aggressive. So if we make this Druid deck even more aggressive, where we say, okay, if you have an AoE, we lose, which we knew they didn't, you can really abuse the information you have. So that worked out well because we knew they were not going to get their mage through. Maybe against our Rogue. Our Rogue was good, but our Druid, they were just not going to beat. Like you know that feeling, right? When you're playing Druid and you have for a fact the knowledge they have no AoE at all. You don't have to play around anything. So you just go full wide and buff and kill them. So
That's pretty good. Wait. So Collins didn't know the rules until like phase 2 began. Shady, you're hitting us with some pretty deep strategy about conquest and everything. So where's this coming from? Was this all from you?
I've played some Constructed in the past, so we talked about it, how that was all just preparation for this moment.
This was your Doctor Strange moment, seeing the 14 billion scenarios and being like, I have to play Constructed to win this.
No, it was just I've played like one tournament before, and that's the strategy, right? You build your lineup and you have to make sure you win with every deck. So you can't have something that absolutely loses to X, because then everything falls apart. And in this case, their mage deck absolutely got wrecked by anything that's super aggressive. So that was a weak point for them. We also just got lucky in terms of quality of the draft.
Yeah,
we had very crisp decks, and I'm not sure if they drafted it optimally, but even if they did, they would have had a naturally slower deck that would have been weak to what we presented.
Yeah, like the statement you just said, like, we're going to draft a deck that would be absolutely annihilated by any AoE that they could have. But that's our only weakness. We're going to concentrate the rest of the archetype, the rest of the draft, just like playing into our own weakness, because we 100% know already that they don't have it. Like, that's such a drafting strategy, right? Like a centralizing strategy that you go into your Druid draft and you execute on it as best as you can. And you guys got some sick cards on top of that for that strategy. And there was just no fear. I remember, because me and Merv, we were watching. At this point we were out. We were just hanging out with a bunch of other arena participants. And we saw you guys draft the deck and we're like, okay. And we saw the mage deck and we're like, oh, like I get it now. Like they're just really going into this, and there's no possible way they're going to lose outside of like the most extremely unlucky draw, because there's nothing to be afraid of. Like
there was no fear.
The victory was kind of assured from the draft stage. Like once, because I at least I was not anywhere near as quick on the draw as to what you had to do to defeat that like mage deck or strategies with conquest or any of that. But once I saw the deck come together and I looked forward to the next match, I'm like, oh, I see what they did, and now they're just going to win. We're just going to start like kind of celebrating right now.
I am kind of curious on what the strategy was on the other side when they drafted that mage deck, because you guys sort of laid out the strategy, and at the end of the day in Conquest, you can't let one deck sort of lose you the tournament, right? That's the thing. And thinking about that mage deck that they constructed, I don't have all the cards on the top of my head, but I did look at it, and I remember sort of the way it was structured. That's kind of the deck in which even if you're just thinking about the semifinals and you're thinking, well, people might not be expecting this, after that deck gets revealed, it's so exploitable because all you have to do is pick either Rogue, Druid, or Paladin, curve out, and the only chance that deck has of winning is essentially for a curve deck to not curve out, which seems dangerous.
I think that's like one of the clear differences between the constructed and arena players, right? Those in constructed, you kind of get decks like that mage deck they created is kind of like a great like constructed thing. What like in Warrior right now, right? You can have games that go to fatigue, you can have like 50 armor, that kind of thing, some controlled monsters, right? So they kind of made like a mage deck that kind of fits the constructed control archetype, right? And you're looking, okay, we've got a constructed deck, and then maybe we draft. They had a druid deck, they're like, we're drafting it, so we have a constructed and an aggressive deck, right? Where in arena, it's like, okay, we just need to focus on making the best deck, killing them, and kind of having the curve work out, right? I kind of feel like they were drafting and not thinking about like all the possibilities in terms of what does this mage deck deal with and what does this mage deck lose to, where they're thinking, okay, this is like a great constructed deck. We've got 2 conjures, we've got 2 krakens. We're just gonna beat people if the opponents draft a control deck as well. So I think that's kind of like one of the differences, that you can fall into a trap as a constructed player, drafting for archetypes but not archetypes that work well for the tournament in hand. There.
I think that's pretty fair. Shady, did you have any thoughts on it as the conquest master here?
Master. It was cool. Just knowing, like, we had a very, like, when came up in the draft, we looked at the mage deck. It was like, they can't kill this. There was no flame strike, there was no portal. So like until turn 9 where they kraken it, our Hogger was invincible. So and then we looked at their druid deck. It was like, oh, they can't kill this Hogger either. So that was very specific. We're like, okay, the moment we get Hogger down where we're not behind on board, it's over. And that happened in the second game. Like, we were slightly out on board, we dropped the Hogger, and it's over because we know they can't access it. It was just one Wrath, so all we had to do was make sure they couldn't Wrath Hero our Hogger. And if they're off the board, that's not happening.
So you guys played well, got through the tough field, made top 4, blitzed your way to victory, and now you guys are champions. So once again, congratulations. However, let me just ask you guys now, if we were to change anything, obviously not you guys winning, but if we were to change anything at all about this tournament, what would you guys have preferred? Time, sort of rules, money structure. No, what would you guys have changed?
Rerolling, Shady.
Yeah.
I understand the reroll. Like, I would prefer for there to be, but I understand from a pure production value that, first of all, if more people are going to do it, it might be a little boring to just watch people draft and retire the entire time. And also, you miss out on that clash we had at the start.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Sorry. Like, because if everyone's re-rolling, everybody's starting at different times because, you hit the nuts at a different point in time than the other people. So even though, like, from a personal standpoint, I enjoyed the reroll, I can see that for the overall event, it's probably better if they don't have it. Well, you introduce more variants, that is true. But if you look at pure entertainment, then it's probably better if everybody starts at the same time, so you have that big clash at the start, everybody running into each other.
I wanted an interview with the winners. I mean,
yeah, why didn't that happen?
That's a big one. Yeah, that's a really good point, Collins. I would say that's probably the number one thing at the end, where it really felt like, okay, bye, we're done.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, cool.
The production was so nice throughout, and then it just cuts off, and you're like, there's no closing statement, no nothing, no closer. You just feel like, well, that was fun.
Yeah, I thought that was very shocking when it happened, because that's what happened in the first time, right? Like, they were following text, they see that he wins, they announce the winner, they talk about some good plays, and they were done. But this time, it really felt like they learned from what they did before. They got dreads on, They had like better production overall. They follow people better. They shook up the rules to make it for like a guaranteed exciting ending. And as part of the guaranteed exciting ending, it means they can track you guys. And they were specifically in communication with the final teams to set up the draft and the games and all of that. So they could have very easily pulled you in for an interview. And instead it was like Shady puts his arms up, we won. You know, they go to commercial immediately after that for like 3 minutes. They come back, everybody has a piece to say, you know, Dreads gives like, you know, you could tell that Dreads was so happy that you guys won. He was like, yeah, Team Arena. They're like, what do I say at the beginning? I said, my Arena guys got this. And then it was just like, all right, well, let's move on to PUBG.
Tune in next week for the PUBG tournament. Also, eat a Snickers. See you guys. That was basically word for word what happened.
So yeah, that's definitely something they could improve on in the end. Now, to be fair, that's how professional sports normally ends. I've seen a lot of esports stuff end that way as well. But like, you don't need to follow that formula. I don't know that that's like a set in stone kind of thing. Like I know whenever I watch like the NBA finals or really any game, like the buzzer sounds, they don't even interview a person. They're just like, and that's it. And then the like after show happens, and that's when they interview people. But there's always an after show. It's like a separate program. So I think that's what they
interview
need.
someone on the court. They always
one person. They interview one person on the court, maybe.
Do you not watch NBA games anymore? Because your example is totally not true.
No. Well, maybe they just don't interview people when it's Utah.
No, they've always done this. They have always done this. Even with Utah, even the days that when you watch, they would pull Darren Williams. They would pull like, I don't know, Tony Delk or whatever, like whoever, like they would pull anyone who had a decent game and anyone who would talk to them.
Okay, I withdraw my statement then. I really remember this as like a thing, but maybe not. Maybe it was just TNT. Because I definitely remember this as like a thing where they didn't interview people. I thought it was weird for the longest time, like for years. But yeah. Like an after show, right, where they interview you guys, discuss strategies, replay some of the clips that were like exciting or whatever for like, I don't know, 15-20 minutes. I think that would be like a good add-on and people will be interested in it even after the competition.
Yeah, it would have been great to just have. Sorry, go ahead, Collins.
No, you finish.
No, I would just want to say it would have been great to have a little chat with Dreads at the end, where
that
would have been fantastic.
Because it was like one point as well, like he might have asked about that when we picked Pantry Spider, right? He was like, because I actually rewatched the VOD and he was like, all right, it's not the Pantry Spider.
Yeah, I heard that too.
And I was like, oh, Dreads, you don't know I like this spider.
Oh no, and during that time I heard Dreads as well. I was like, oh, Dreads, you noob. It's always the Pantry Spider. You guys know how much I love Pantry Spider.
I remember that pick too, because we were watching it and I was like, crap, the pick here is probably the Pantry Spider. This is terrible, like, because I hate Pantry Spider, but that was the right pick.
No, I loved it. I was just like, oh, this is so good. It's like they got bailed out by Pantry Spider.
In Druid, I like it.
Yeah.
And like specifically good 3-drops are rare, so it's just nice to have this okayish card that interacts with buffs, because the way how I look at it is like you prepay for some pings. Like if I do this, I don't have to hero power later on. So then you just play cards. And then sometimes the pings survive and then they get buffed. And then, they might get some reward.
I wasn't sold on the Pantry Spider, but Shady reassured me. And if Shady reassures me, I'm sold on it.
I was like, Collins, trust in the spider. Let's go.
Easy, yeah.
We each have our cards where we go like, trust me. Take it.
I felt like I was there with you guys because when Pantry Spider came up, I was like, first of all, this is the pick. And I was like, I know Shady is going to make sure that they pick this one. Also, whenever Power of the Wild came up, I was like, I know Shady, like, because Shady, we talked about this. For you were just like Power of the Wild. It's like the best card ever.
It's funny because we tested not picking Power of the Wild earlier, before the tournament, and then we learned it wasn't correct.
Yeah, it's more like we sort of like always had pick Power because it makes sense, right? Because you get Roots, you get Raven, but we're like, all right, let's test Acorn Bear, because I had seen some really good players pick Acorn Bear in that bucket, and then we just hated it. We're just like, we're the buffs, man. Like, come on.
I see so many Acorn Bearers being played in the arena, and I'm like, every time you pick this card, you must have had better options. Like, if you're
Yeah, so-
going aggressive on the board, you must have had a Power of the Wild as an option. Otherwise, Swipe is an option half the time. Like,
I do get it because like I have had a deck with 7 Acorn Bears, and oh boy, does that feel good. You just never run out of things to play. But I think this meta right now, just because you get Ravens and you get Roots, you're usually just gonna be too light with too many ones if you also slam the Acorns on
Yeah.
top of that. And it feels like too many buffs is a quality problem to have right now. You're far more likely to not get enough buffs.
Yep.
So I think the power is just a solid pick when you see it.
Yeah. Okay. And then last one extra thing I would have liked them to change. I would have liked them to have like a real time or more like obvious tracking of the scores, because I think that was maybe like another like big issue. Like after I did my runs, I was trying to get the scores, and I was like, there are no areas where I can find like real time score tracking. And when I was rewatching the VOD, though they had the scores, but it wasn't like per run. There were some people in first, um, that had done more runs than everyone else, right? So it's not like they were in first, like on average being better. They just had like they've done 2 runs when most people have done like a run and a half, right? So I think if they maybe like sectioned out the scores where it's like, okay, these guys like did this many for their first run, did this many for their second run, did this many for their third run, then you could realistically track who's actually ahead. Because I think if you're watching the stream and live and we're looking at the scores, you really couldn't track who was ahead in real time until the very end where you have all the scores. So that would be another thing I wish they would do better on.
That's
yeah.
a great moment as well to introduce like the individual leader, where you can see, okay, this guy is doing the best regardless of how the team is doing. So that's like great to get a little bit of recognition in at the same time, where even if your team is not doing too hot, you might be the top point. You might be the point leader individually.
Yeah, even at the very end, like I know I was the last person, like part of the group, like the few people that were still playing up until the buzzer. And I don't know, maybe when I was like 6-0 with that insane rogue deck that I knew was going to go really well, unless really bad things happened, I started asking Twitch chat, right? The all-knowing Twitch chat, who's watching a million channels at once on this, super dedicated arena players and viewers. And I'm just like, hey, how are things going? Like, do we have a shot at the top 4? Are we in the money? Like, what is, what are we ranking against? What are we facing against? And I just got like near radio silence because people didn't know. Like, and if these like 100 super dedicated people who were watching my like side channel at the time, right? Like this is /Advocta. This is like, these are people who are like super into the arena and are probably watching every single arena streamer at least, if not also a whole bunch of the constructed and IRL streamers, and as well as obviously the main channel, and they can't figure out like what our odds are or how many wins I need in this run to be able to hit top 4 or hit in the money or any kind of like line that we're doing, then no one does. Like, then literally nobody can do it because they have the widest possible view of all of this outside of the people actually organizing the competition. And the people organizing the competition weren't saying it on their main stream, so presumably they didn't know either, or like they had the information but it wasn't organized in a way to present. So that would definitely be helpful. My like Collins was talking about how you track by which run people are on. An idea I had is to like for the next one is to maybe just do 3 runs, but to actually like cut off each of the 3 runs. Like everyone starts, because the fun part was actually when everyone started at once, right? And then we all bumped into each other. So you do that for each of the 3 runs, and that also allows them to track the people who are getting 12s because they'll be the ones playing the longest, and the rest of us we just have to wait, right? Like, and yeah, it's a little boring for us, but from a Twitch perspective, you're watching like 80 streams plus the mainstream anyway. They don't really care if someone follows our particular stream for the whole entire time. So from a Twitch perspective, if you do that, the downside is you don't know when it's really going to end. Right now you kind of do, right? They set up a nice schedule where there's a cutoff at 6 hours and then you start the finals. But in the next one, they just had 3 runs done the same way, but cut off each time, and so we all have the same starting time. I think it'll be really exciting because in the beginning, everyone's running against each other.
Same structure, but just get maybe 2 hours and a half.
30?
or
Yeah,
so
2 hours
so.
20 or something.
So
Yeah.
like the first run starts at this time, the second run starts at this time, the third run starts at this time. Where if you're gonna have a 3-hour run, that's tough luck. You'll have to play a bit faster. Or
Yeah. No priests.
Yeah, no priest.
Yeah. So that's my idea for.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah. I think if you test it out and be like, all right, well, there's no obvious big downside I see, then yeah, that could be a really good idea.
Yeah,
for next
it's
time.
not a bad idea because
it will reintroduce, because that first run.
Yeah, that first one was always the
everybody. Bam, everybody clashes.
Yeah.
So now we have like, all right, second round, everybody go again. Third round, everybody go again. So I think you do need to put a meaningful time constraint there, though, so that people don't have this like, maybe wait a little bit, right? See if some people get started, and I'll try to like dodge them, and I'll be a little bit behind the pack. So maybe I'll face some stragglers, but I'm not going to face the front runners.
See, what we're talking about here, it really illustrates how much we need a tournament mode and how much hype there would be for a tournament mode. People love to see like this sort of stuff, right? Where you just get together a whole bunch of streamers and let them go at it. And yeah, we have the mainstream, we have grandmasters, and we have tournaments like that. But there's just a spontaneity and a randomness to the limited format, which is really fun, right? Because a lot of the times when you watch Constructed, it's like, okay, well, this is the warrior mirror match with like, oh, but this is the secondary deck which teched in like an EMP operative, and it changes the whole entire thing, which it really doesn't. And over here, I think, from my watching of the VOD, people really enjoyed it. They enjoyed seeing people's decks. Everyone had a good time doing it as well. So I'm hoping that whatever changes there are, Blizzard just looks at this and sort of sees the excitement it really creates in this pseudo tournament style, and is like, oh, hey, we should probably focus on tournament again, because this would be awesome for everyone involved. And if they were to do it, we wouldn't need Twitch to do something analogous to this, right? Like communities within itself can just create tournaments. But anyways, that's my kind of like monthly pitch for tournament mode. I'm just like the guy wishing for that unicorn that will probably never appear.
Yeah, I mean, let's have some faith.
Some faith. All right, Collins. Well, I will keep the faith alive. But that was the tournament, guys. Once again, I'm going to urge you to watch the VOD on Twitch Rivals, or you can watch it through any of our perspectives and have fun seeing us get smashed and just a lot of crazy moments.
Well, I mean, we smashed you.
That's
guys.
true. Well, yeah. I did get smashed, especially during my first 2 games. Anything else you guys want to talk about Twitch Rivals before we move on to new cards?
Nope, we're good. Apparently.
All right.
Perfect. Let's talk about the new cards.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to go through them?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go through them kind of quickly. There was a blog post about a week ago, where Blizzard laid out, it's like, okay, we want classes to have an identity. Pretty cool. We've talked about class identity on this podcast quite a bit. And they were just like, well, we want to establish class identity, and then we're going to Hall of Fame some cards like they always do every single year, and then add some new classic cards. So cards that are getting Hall of Famed are Vanish and Mind Blast, 2 cards that are just arena, foundational cards, right?
We're going to miss them so much.
I know. So those cards are gone, and in their place, we have, for these 2 cards, Vanish and Mind Blast. Let's talk about the 2 cards replacing.
Yeah. Let's. I'll go over the cards, and then you guys can put in your thoughts. We're gonna do this like panel style. Here, I'll put the link. The blog is probably the best link. I'll go straight down. I'm putting the link into Twitch chat, so you guys can click it if you don't have it. I'm actually going to start at the neutrals rather than the fun class cards.
Do it.
Because that's how we do Arena, right? This is still an Arena podcast. We're talking about this from an Arena perspective. What they've done is they're replacing all the old Hall of Fame cards, and you remember what they did before when they replaced the cards? They had that like mage card that added a random mage spell to your hand for 1 mana. They had Icicle, which is 2 mana, deal 2 damage. If something's frozen, you draw a card. Like, they're not necessarily unusable in Arena, but they're generally not particularly good. These are this time I think we may get some better ones. Anyway, we're gonna go over these really quick and just give us your thoughts. First one, SI7 Infiltrator, 4 mana, 5/4, rare card, battle cry, destroy a random enemy secret.
I like it.
I think this
I
might
hate
be
playing
the
secrets. I don't draft secrets, so it's gonna be good for me. It's just
I think this might be the best neutral one day out of the 5 that they are revealing. So
Yeah.
the problem is it's playable by itself without the battle cry, so people are gonna pick it. So
Yep.
if you have secrets, I mean, random enemy secret doesn't matter because you're only gonna have one secret 90% of the 90+% of the time. So just like destroy a secret, 4 mana, 5/4, good stats, and has just upside. So it's gonna be played, and you're gonna hate it if you're a secret drafter.
Yeah, this card, look, whenever you get vanilla stats with upside, even if the upside is super rare, that's a good card. And if you think about other secret destroying cards, we've had a 4 mana secret destroying card called Eater of Secrets, which instead of a 5/4, it was a 2/4. And yeah, it got buffed up if it ate a secret. But if they didn't have a secret, which is
Most
the
of the time,
vast majority of the time, you're playing a 2/4 instead of a 5/4. So this is just really good. We've seen cards that have vanilla stats that have an upside, and they're just always really good within the arena. Now we just have to see what bucket it's in, but
Yeah.
assuming it's in a reasonable bucket, this could definitely help shape the meta.
Yeah, so I hate this design, not because of the random part, but because it's just rock, paper, scissors. You're like, are you going to stop drafting secrets? I mean, secrets aren't great, but you're drafting some secrets, right? You want to have a meta in which some of your secret synergy, you could potentially make a secret mage or a secret hunter, or probably not a secret paladin, except in one particular meta
or something. But the rest, I just hate. I hate mirror. I hate all the rest of the mage secrets. I don't draft paladin secrets either, so I just don't like it.
So Shady just sees pure personal upside for this.
Yeah, I don't know. I still see so many mirror entities, and I'm just like, really, guys? Those lackeys and all that.
Yeah.
I think the chance it gets wrecked is so high.
Yeah. The chance it gets wrecked is even higher now, with SI7 Infiltrator being in decks.
Yeah.
So also
it will be annoying if you do get forced into it. Right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I have to pick the secret, and then
can't play mirror on 3 because SI on 4.
It's almost like that Dragon Slayer-esque feeling.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm like, well, I don't like dragons in this case, so it's like, okay, maybe we can get away with it.
Yeah,
see how it feels.
For Eater of Secrets, you were okay with it because even though it's rock paper scissors, you're paying a price to play this game, right? You pay a price in order to do that. Just like I don't love the design of EMP Operative, but you're paying a really heavy price, like 5 mana for a 3/3. Here, there is no price to be paid, just like Dragon Slayer. So whatever you get is pure random upside. The opponent cannot really play around it. Even if they're tracking hands, they can't just be like, all right, I got a feeling that that's exactly SI7 Infiltrator. Like, there's no way. There's no way they're going to get that read, and there's no way they're going to hold back a secret if that is a good play. So they just play it, and then you get detempo and devalued hard, and they never had to pay anything. They never had to take any risks to do this to you.
I think I might like this more though than random Kazan or Eater of Secrets, because Kazan and Eater of Secrets, you ask yourself, why do you have that card, dude? But with this, you know it's going to be common. So you're like, when in the draft, you have even more reason to not take the secret. Whereas before, you're like, really? You drafted the Kazan? And like, it's not going to do anything just against me. You happen to steal my mirror entity.
It's just gonna end up punishing the new players, right? Like the people.
Yeah,
that
it's just
don't
like more of a
actually
swing.
know.
I might just teach
Yeah,
people to stop
yeah,
picking secrets.
Yeah. So these are neutral cards that replace basic and common basic cards in Hearthstone, and so these have an offering penalty of 50%. So they're like Dark Iron, Scarlet Crusaders. You still see them, quite frequently, but not the same as like an expansion neutral card. But yeah, so that's SI7 Infiltrator. It's a 5/4 with quite significant upside in enough games that it'll matter. Next, let's move on to Arcane Devourer, 8 mana 5/5 elemental. Whenever you cast a spell, gain +2/+2.
It's bad.
Yeah, sounds like trash.
It sounds like a great portal target.
Yeah.
It's basically 8 mana 5/5 taunt. That's what it is.
Not even a taunt. Not even a taunt.
Yeah, I guess
I'll let it stay on the board. You can play your spell and make it into a 7/7. I don't think I care. You paid 8 mana for this thing.
Yeah,
It's like
you're right.
Yeah,
You're actually right.
Even if they cast 2 spells the next turn, which is pretty tough to do, they paid 8 mana for a 9/9 with no initiative.
No ability, yeah.
Yeah, so even in that case, I'm like, am I okay typically with people
They get a
playing?
shovel fist without a rush.
Yeah. So a lot of times, because I'm going face by that time, I'm like, okay, well, if they don't have AoEs, right? And by that time, you should have a read on whether or not they have AoEs. If they're just playing random spells that aren't AoEs to buff up this guy, you probably won by that time. So look, I don't know if this will ever get constructed play, just because it's so expensive.
I don't think any of these cards are designed to ever get to constructed play.
Right.
They're like for new players to screw around with. Like, if anything, they're much more likely to get arena play.
I guess like maybe if it ever sees played, they do have constructed, so they could do maybe a meme where they turn it into a 6 mana elemental. But even then, like it's probably going to be so clunky that if it ever sees play, that's probably how, or it becomes a bit more castable.
Yeah. So I don't think we need to discuss this that much. It's going to be like in the bottom of the 7th bucket, and
no, it's not.
It's like a never pick.
Knowing how Blizzard buckets things, it's gonna
Top
be
of
like
6.
it's gonna be like 4th bucket initially. Then they're like, "Wow, it's actually worse than I thought. Maybe let's put it into the 5th bucket." I'm like,
"Okay, Hawkstone and Scribe.
What are you doing?" Yeah.
So we actually already know these buckets because they added them in their last things when they revealed the last bucket changes. And I don't know where this one is. I don't have it in front of me, but
well, you should when you say that.
I should. You know what? I actually have this information right here because we have it on our website. The Lightforge.com. We'll have all this updated tomorrow at some point. So if it's not,
it is at the bottom of the 7th.
It's at the bottom of the 7th.
I'm looking at them right now.
Okay, great. Great, perfect.
And also, FYI, SI7 Infiltrator is at the bottom of the 4th, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like that's a good spot to pick Infiltrator. So you should see Infiltrators.
Yep. I don't think that's like necessarily a miss bucket, but it's like the SI Infiltrator, but it's certainly very draftable. Yeah, for Arcane Devourer, I think what's our score for it? It's like a 35 or something. It was really bad. You guys will see tomorrow. It's pretty terrible.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Now we move on to our final non-legendary neutral card being introduced. 7 mana 4/4. Baron's Stablehand. Battlecry. Summon a random beast. What do you guys think?
These are the type of cards I have problems with.
Yeah.
You're like flipping a coin to win or lose in a lot of cases, right? There are a lot of
it's like
insane
Ram Wrangler,
beasts.
right?
Yeah.
It's sort of comparable. Ram Wrangler being 5 mana, doing the same thing if you have a beast on board, I believe.
And being a 3/3.
I don't know. I can't see this being any good. Ram Wrangler.
Summon a King Crush, That seems okay. Summon a Mastodon, seems
what
okay.
if it summons a boar?
Summon, yeah, well then it's a 7 mana 5/5 with one deal 1 damage.
So this is
7 mana
at
4/4.
the top of the 6 bucket.
Oh, that's pickable.
It's
Mhm.
pickable, which is
That is-
bad.
That's
Yeah.
very pickable, actually.
It's kind of pickable, which does not make me happy.
Yeah.
It's not that pickable.
No.
Six
I
bucket.
agree, but it's kind of.
It's kind of pickable.
which
Like, yeah.
scares me.
Like
Yeah.
at certain, there will be quite a number of decks where it will be a legitimate option when you get it in the mid to late draft.
And that's what I hate. You don't want these kinds of cards to be kind of pickable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
people are going to pick them, and come turn 7, all right.
You see,
Boar or King Crush.
the issue with this card is we might not win by this card, but we'll definitely lose to this card. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a la Heckle Bot, where they pull your 2, and you're like, oh, come on. Yeah.
Yeah, so it just kind of sucks because the better players, they might identify that realistically it's not going to be in your favor,
Mhm.
but the casuals, the random, the people who live in chaos, right? They're like, yes, let's roll the dice here. We lost. Well, we got 2 more chances. Let's roll the dice here. We won. Yeah, I'm gonna play forever. It's like seems like a problem.
Well, fortunately, it is epic, and on top of that, it is a basic card, so it will be seen as
Forever.
infrequently as Blizzard could make it without making it a legendary. So hopefully, even though it's bucketed correctly, which is bad for this kind of card, as we just went over, hopefully we still won't see it too often. We'll see though. Okay. Moving on to the other 2 neutral cards. These are 2 legendaries. These are getting a lot of hype actually on the Arena HS subreddit. We'll start with the cuter one. 3 mana.
The High Wing Inquisitor White Mage. Super cute, right?
That's the stuff of nightmares. Her face. Like if you look closely at it. 3 mana 3/2 dragon. It's Brightwing. It's a cute, adorable little dragon with a tongue that's, I don't know what it's doing. I don't want to know. Battle Cry. Add a random legendary minion to your hand. So for the cost of 2 stats, and it's not a curve card, it will give you a random legendary.
Yeah, it just reminds me of Messenger Raven. I think that's like the obvious comparison.
I mean, it's like Pinata, right?
Yeah, it's like Pinata.
But it's got the same stats as the Raven, you know?
It's got the same effect as a Pinata.
Fair enough.
No, I mean, true. Like, you think of Message. I think Raven's better, right?
Raven's way better.
Yeah, Raven's way better for sure.
You hit the Tony, right? It's much better. But yeah,
Even
I mean, Pinata right now in its bucket is pretty unpickable, I would say. But depending on the bucket here,
Chat likes to disagree with that statement.
Well, chat can pick whatever it wants, of course.
It's worse than the Raven. It's worse than the Paladin one, the Bronze Herald. I mean, what bucket is it in?
Dragon.
It is a dragon.
Yeah, I was going to say it is a dragon, and
it's a legendary bucket. It doesn't even matter, right?
Yeah, but currently we are not in a meta in which dragons matter that much past sort of Zubat, right? But there are certainly metas in which you really want dragons. You want that dragon synergy to sort of be able to get dragons, to activate other dragons, like Dragon Operative.
It's funny. This would be a dragon meta if we had more dragons in the pool. This meta, right?
Typically, what a dragon meta is.
No. I mean, like, we have dragons.
I was like, what's the nuance here? I'm missing it, Collins.
Yeah.
We have Historian. We have the 3/6 dragon the pain, right? Like, if we didn't have those 2 cards, like, it doesn't matter how many dragons you have, right? Like, there's no like innate dragons. Like, dragons don't get +1 for each other dragon, right? But Historian and the 3/6 dragon are available options, meaning that drafting more dragons would be beneficial. Where if you take those 2 cards and then put a bunch of dragons, doesn't really matter, you know. So that's what I meant by it's a dragon meta if there's more dragons.
That makes a lot of sense. I just really like pushing your buttons on that, though. That was
fair enough. It sounded weird. I understand.
It would be a mech meta if we had more mechs.
Ooh, monk.
Well, not necessarily. Maybe if we had more, then I could argue. But mechs in general, mechs don't have innate synergy first.
Yeah, in a slower meta, I could see Brightwing being really good, right? Because in slower metas, sometimes you can get away with a slow 3 because people start later, plus you have the AoEs to back it up. And then legendaries, the problem with legendaries in a meta like today's meta, is a lot of legendaries are big. So the good ones tend to be
Mhm.
big, and the bad ones tend to be like just really sort of conditional, or you build your deck around it. Just really weird stuff, right? With
The
strange
bad ones are
effects.
effectively like 6 or 7 mana for a 5/5.
Yeah, or like 7 mana for a 3/3, or it's just like really weird stuff, right? Anti-tempo, but allows you to combo something ridiculous if you built your entire deck around it. So at least in sort of slower metas, the really good bigger ones like Onyxia, right? You will be able to actually play. The other kinds, whatever. I mean, you never get use out of it. But Brightwing could be a really no pun intended, bright
Oh
spot
my god.
for slower decks in a slower meta. It could just be a really good card.
Uh,
In this
That pun
meta,
is intended.
I know. In this meta, it like
When
really,
you
really sucks.
run the Warpath, Super Glider, Warrior, that would fit there, right? That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
class
Mhm.
you would pick Pinatas in, so I could see this working
Oh,
out there. For
and
sure.
they'll get it from Dragon's Roar anyways.
Oh yeah.
Oh god, no.
Oh,
Oh,
you're
I
right.
didn't even think about that. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. But at least they shouldn't have Collider in that rotation, and probably not even Warpath, right? When they have Roar.
Hopefully.
Well,
right?
So-
Blizzard
never
can
know.
do whatever they want with these rotations.
Yeah, I'm assuming that Warpath and Collider are out for next one. We'll
Oh.
see.
They won't print Super Collider. They'll print Uber Collider, which is 1 mana more expensive, but is has like, I don't know,
Every
Has
minion on your
Wind Fury.
side of the
has
field.
Wind Fury, right? But it has Wind Fury, and it makes your hero immune while.
Oh my god.
Just like cast Sprawl when you attack.
Don't suggest that, JD. Blizzard may be
God.
listening. You're just
No, I
giving
didn't say
their
anything.
card department an idea. Okay, so Brightwing is gonna end up somewhere in like the high 100s, like below 110, but above 105 on the Lightforge Tierlist, which is about like it's playable. It's Pinata. It's Pinata without the mech label, basically in this meta. But yeah, legendary card, pretty. Like I can see why they print a card like this for basic classes. For basic set, it's nice. Its its randomness is not too bad, and people will like playing it. It's Mimi. So now let's move on to the one that is absolutely controllable and probably the best card in this set, I think. High Inquisitor Whitemane, 7 mana, 6/8. Battle Cry. Summon all friendly minions that died this turn. Remember, it's a legendary. Neutral. What do you guys think?
It reminds me of another card. I can't put my finger on it though.
Kel'Thuzad?
No, that's not the one.
Kel'Thu freaking Zod.
That's
Definitely
the one.
Kel'Thuzad.
The freaking was the thing I was missing. It's got to be good, right? It's just got to be good, right? It has basically the same stats, and it gives you its ability for a turn, but the turn is all you need in the. So, yeah.
Yeah, and there is upside potentially with stuff that has charge or rush or something, right? Kel'Thuzad is end of turn once you've already, like completed your turn, so you can't do anything.
So what you're saying, it's even better than Kel'Thuzad.
It's yeah, so much better. It's fine. Once again, this is a hugely meta dependent one, right? And I would say typically it's going to be pretty good. Because the meta that we're in right now, this is not a normal meta. Like if you were to look at like the past 2 years, right? Like 2 years or 1.5 years, we had a lot more metas in which Brightwing and Whitemane would be good to pretty good. versus a meta like right now where both of these cards would just be really, really, really crappy.
Yep. And I like that it doesn't swing as hard as Kel'Thuzad. Kel'Thuzad's kind of like you put stuff on the board, you just never get through. You can't even kill their other stuff on their turn because it just comes back. It's like it's designed to end the game, right? This is not designed to end the game. It's designed to give you a very powerful boost. And what I like about the design is it's a 7 mana 6/8. Let's say you're off the board. You can't do anything, right? It's a 7 mana 6/8. That's not that bad. That's like not good, but it's playable. Whereas Kel'Thuzad's an 8 mana 6/8, so that's 1 extra mana for the extra ability that Kel'Thuzad has that doesn't do you any good if you don't have the board. So I'm not saying this is better than Kel'Thuzad, but it's less swing. So for like either worse players or just to like, I like cards with smaller swing. So I like the design of this card.
Cool.
Yep, and that's gonna come in at like, I don't know, somewhere between a 125 and a 130 on like a low premium on the tier list.
Is that taking this meta into account?
Yes.
Okay.
That's this meta. Yeah. If it's not this meta, it may be lower. Okay.
I thought it would be higher.
Yeah, I would think it'd be higher if it wasn't this meta.
Yeah, okay, maybe it would be higher. I haven't really thought about it.
The 7 cost is what's
holding it back,
in my opinion. Like you can't. Yeah.
That's fair. Okay, so next is a paladin card. It is 5 mana, and it is called Righteousness. It's a paladin spell, rare, and remember, these are now spells, so even if they are in basic or whatever the free set is. No, basic is the free set. Whatever. If they're in basic, they're still going to get offered as if they're an expansion card in terms of the offering rates. So you're going to see these normally. 5 mana, Righteousness. Give your minions Divine Shield. That's all your minions Divine Shield, whether you played them on the turns before or on the current turn. But it is 5 whole mana.
This one's hard to judge, to be honest, because sometimes giving a minion Divine Shield might be worth 5, depending on the minion, right? Like if you give like a Boulder Fist Ogre a Divine Shield, right? And it trades against like a 6/6, right? That's worth it for sure.
So let's put this into context. This is at the top of the 7th bucket because whenever we have to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that helps a lot. That helps a lot.
Does it change your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's playable. It's pickable now. Right. The 7th bucket is full of trash. So. Having a card where you're thinking, okay, this could be really, really good in the right situations in the 7th bucket. That makes the card definitely pickable then. So I do think it will be seen.
I think it's okay if you're a really low curve deck, sort of like Op Paladin casting a level up, right? Like it's usually all right. I just need to get the spread, need to get it to stick for a turn, and then everything gets shield. So I think in slower metas or metas where you don't really want to draft those early spread paladins, I don't think it's going to be very good. But I think it's could be pickable in these low curve spread paladins where you get 4 or 5 bubbles out of this thing.
I think it's my opinion is similar to you guys. I think it's okay. Just the card I initially thought this was terrible. I was like, oh god, it's so bad. But I actually start thinking about not level up, but because that was never really relevant to the arena that much. Well, in nightmare scenarios, it was. But I thought about Enhancer Mechano, like the 4 mana. And for that, I'm just like, most of the time, except for when I'm going for lethal, I just really want the Divine Shield, right? I'm just hoping for that to get Divine Shield. So I was just thinking, obviously the card is more expensive. You don't get the 3/2 body, but I'm just thinking like how often I was like, oh yeah, now's the time to play Mechano. I'm really hoping we get some Divine Shields here. I was like, okay, like from those times, and I played Enhancer Mechano like a decent amount in Paladin because it was a class that fit it. I was like, okay, yeah, I don't think I'm giving this as much credit. And by that, I mean, I think it's okay-ish rather than terrible.
I feel like you guys aren't giving this card enough. Maybe I feel like this card, in the end, you guys will say this card is better than I thought. Like I feel like that statement will come out of your mouths in the next couple of months. That's what I feel about this.
Yeah, well, this is gonna come in. Go ahead.
When you're a low curve spread deck.
Yep.
That is true.
Yeah, so 1 mana for, like, generally give Divine Shield to something should be worth about 1 mana, maybe a little more than 1 mana. Hand of Protection is a card on 1 mana to start it off. It's not very good. So you need to hit, like 3 targets and 1 without initiative for this to kind of get what the value that you really want out of it for it to be a good usage card. It's hard to pull off, but in certain decks, that's what your board condition will be if you were to have any shot to win the game. So I'm with Collins. I think it's going to be better than we generally think, but we're definitely going to start it off below 100.
Yeah, for sure.
Possibly below even a 90. We'll see. But it's around that range of like situational, needs the right deck, and then still kind of situational. High swing card. But yeah. Next, Gift of the Wild. Kind of the same thing, but for Druid. 8 mana. Give your minions +2/+2 and taunt. So
I find this card annoying because turn 7, you're gonna be like, well, I have to trade. Because you don't want to do, like, let's say they play a scribe or something, right? And then on turn 6, they trade into something on turn 7, and then they play like 2 or 3 minions, right? And then you're like, well, I could go face and pressure him, or I could play around Gift of the Wild and not instantly lose, right? So that's kind of my issue with it. Not that the card in itself is good, but the fact that it's now an option means that you have to play more safe against Druid.
I would say, so once again, this is top of the 7th bucket.
Why is everything on the top of this?
That's where they like to put it. I'll say this about this card, and I'm curious to get sort of Shady's perspective on this card, especially. I don't think it'll warp the way that I see Druids play in any meta, really. And here's why. In a faster meta, it's like, this is so much worse than Force Aid. Not only can you just not play it twice, but Force Aid is the ultimate reload that you need, right? Because if they haven't wiped your board by turn 8, you've definitely won. And if they have, yep, okay.
The problem is this is in different buckets, so you can have both.
Sure, yeah, definitely. But even if this is against like a 1 mana 2/1, I take the 1 mana 2/1. You know, I take the crappy. I'll take the 1 mana 1/2.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't.
No, I definitely would. And in your scenario,
you're a Merps hunter. That's
well, not even that. But in your scenario as well, I don't think this changes the way I play against Druid, because here's the thing: if they have a wide board by like turn 7 anyways, I'm scared of all their other buffs. Like, they always have buffs, they always have Savage Roar, and I don't want them top decking Savage Roar anyways to kill me, so I'm clearing anyways. But in the case in which they just have one big minion, right, I'll typically just leave that up. And so even if they Gift of the Wild with one big minion, like their Boulderfist Ogre, but I have like 5 minions going face, they're essentially just spending 8 mana to give it +2/+2 and taunt, and I'm just like, okay, whatever, if that's all you're doing with 8 mana. So in just thinking of the way I play against Druid, I don't think it changes anything, and I don't think it makes Druid any better or gives them anything.
Yeah, the only thing I could see is Violet Worm in the same meta as this thing. That's gonna be spicy if you get pull that off.
Oh my god.
7 3/3s with taunt. Good luck. Yeah, so same sentiment here. You have Blessing right now, 3 mana +1/+1. That's, it's hard to describe just how much better that card is. And it feels like the way how you play against Druid is usually you pretend they have Blessing or Power or Savage Roar. So I don't think it changes the way how you play against them, as you previously mentioned, and the card itself is just very inflexible. That being said, it being in such a low bucket, I'll definitely try it out and see like if it finds a place, say in a meta where Violet Worm is a card, or Scribe. right? If we get it during this this meta.
It just gives you more buff options though.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you can it makes the buff archetype more viable. Granted, this is a weaker variant, but it is another option for buffing.
Turn 8 though, right? Like
Yeah,
your
I
buffs
mean,
start to come out. Your
I
buffs,
agree.
buffs
I
come out
agree.
before the AoE, right? Not like turn 8. I'm like, oh, they didn't have AoE. I can now buff. Like, but they didn't have AoE, so I would have won anyway.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
It shouldn't be high quality.
So you mentioned Violet Worm, but even at like scribe levels, even at that 4 mana 3/1 mech that summons a bunch of 1/1s, I see a lot of use for this card just in a normal meta, like one that's not like super aggressive, like the one prior to Rise of Mechs, the first Rise of Shadow meta, for example. This card will be pretty useless because you're going way faster than that as Druid. But now I think like I don't know. I'm not gonna say the card is good, and I think Merps is right. It doesn't change how you play around Druid because Druid can always do this type of stuff. Like you should be prepared for it, but it's going to make it more unpredictable to play against Druid because you may have reads. I often have reads on Druid. Oh, they don't have a buff all by turn 7. I have that read on them, or they buffed a lot of things because usually they at some point get the board or whatever. Now I have that read, except unless they have this freaking card. Right? Like, you've just busted my read for no good reason for a not very good card that's in the 7th bucket and belongs in the 7th bucket. So that's not good. On top of that, I don't know if you guys ever do this, but so often, like, Druid does something and it ends up with, like, 6 things or 5 things on the board, and I have, like, 2 things or, like, usually 2 things. And rather than try to clear them and then lose slowly,
face, right?
I just go face and put out on a taunt.
Same here.
Yeah. So now when I put out a taunt and put things over there, they have more ways to buff. And not only are they buffing, but it gets taunt. That taunt annoys me so much. Like, I get it. The card's 8 mana because it has taunt. If it didn't have taunt, it would be like 6 mana or like something, right? Like, it would be actually a better card without taunt. But the fact that it does have taunt is also a unreadable thing that will screw my like brilliant plans over. Like, I feel like this card is designed in a way to screw with better players, and I feel like that's
a lot of the cards here.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. In this whole entire core and like basic set or whatever that they're adding in, it's a bunch of randomness, it's a bunch of comeback cards, it's a bunch of cards that are just better for worse players than for better players. So I mean, I guess you have to give like casual something, and this is like they didn't make it powerful, right? At least they didn't combine the two. It's when they combine the two of like better for worse players than good players and just naturally really powerful that you get to like this terrible state. So I don't think it's going to be terrible for the meta, but it's like another thumb on the scale against good players, I think, in playing against Druid. And I agree with Merps. It doesn't change how you play against Druid.
Dragon Slayers is what you're talking about, right? Better for worse. And just
Joust.
Freaking Joust.
Yeah.
At least this one is less, painful, less blatantly there. Joust is like, hey, I won the player out.
Yeah.
All right.
Get that, right? Like, I played, you play against someone who plays as Jouster. Cool, Zombie Chow in this meta. Nice. Right? It's good.
All right, moving on. Warlock now. Rare. It's a creature. It's a minion. 7 mana, 5/8 taunt. Demon. Your other demons have +1 attack.
So no ability.
Hey, there's demons. There's demons in many metas. There's even neutral demons now, Collins. Come on, this is the new direction of Blizzard.
I read no ability. That's how I look at the card.
Well, we can joke about that a little bit, but there have been metas in which the demon tag is kind of sort of relevant. Not this one. Like right now.
Implosion for 4, and then jam this guy. Right?
I know, but it's not gonna be around for long. That's my problem, right? I don't get to do it.
Farm scheme.
Yeah. What about the best 6 mana minion in Warlock right now? You Dread Inferno on turn 6. It doesn't die. You Siege Breaker. It gets 1 more attack. It's a thing.
Now you have a 7/6. Perfect for killing their 5/7 that they were 4/7. I guess is what they're doing.
And I will say, with Blizzard adding a lot of small demons in the recent expansions to sort of water down Bane of Doom a little bit, this guy you really want out of Bane of Doom, right? This is a big 5/8
that's Bane of Doom has been getting better and better, especially this expansion.
Yeah, this expansion has been good. I mean, that card, because we're always going to see it in Classic, it's so meta dependent based on what they rotate in. And for a while, it was getting like a little bit worse and a little bit worse because they kept on printing these like weird, like Trickster, right? You just get like a demon with no attack. But here, this is pretty good, and now it's a classic one, so you'll always be getting this one.
That's true. This card actually works better for like control. So this is like more of my type of card. Like even though the stats are a little bit like less health than I want for a 7-mana body, its stats are acceptable. So if you're going for like some type of weird control warlock, you could definitely see yourself putting a couple of these in at the end to.
Yeah, I mean it's Bach Reaper with 1 less damage. Like it can't be terrible, right?
Yeah.
And usually in Warlock, you're okay giving up a little bit more quality because you have life tap. Just get a thing that has taunt. So I don't think it's terrible at all. But yeah, it's no Bach Reaper.
Yeah. Give me that one attack. I need to kill those Dread Infernos in one shot.
So we have it on
about the lock versus lock metas.
Hell yeah.
That's why you play the second one, Collins. Now they're back.
Void Caller's coming back, and probably not in the too distant future. So I think this card has its place. But even now, even in the current meta, we have it rated above a 100 in Warlock. Mostly because it's a large taunt. Large taunts just get rated, like Colin says. It just gets rated really highly in Warlock. Not because of the ability. The ability is not terribly great. But still, I think I can see it being sometimes relevant. Okay. Moving on up. 2 final cards left. There is one that we should not talk about. It is called Radiance. It is 1 mana, and you restore 5 health to your hero.
I just feel so sad for the constructed players, right? They're like, we had a good thing going with Mind Blast. Sometimes it was used. Now we've got Radiance. Unplayable trash.
No, they jammed this at Nomi Priest, right? With Auctioneer. It's just a cheap spell to fatigue themselves for Nomi.
I know.
Unplayable trash.
No. What I've learned from Hearthstone is never underestimate really cheap spells. Yeah. Like, there's always going to be a role for it because Hearthstone at its core, they'll always print stuff that interacts with spells and foundationally, anything that interacts with spells, you're gonna want like a lot of small spells, right? Whether it's Gadgetzan, whether it's like Nomi, something that rewards you from cycling through your deck really quickly. This is small, and it heals you as well. So, look, obviously for Arena, never. Like
5 mana do nothing.
Never. But who knows? Who knows in Constructed? I certainly don't, because I suck at that format. So of course Radiance is bottom of the 7th. Let me tell you guys about Siegebreaker though. It's at the bottom of the 6th.
Yeah,
very good.
It's quality pick at bottom of the 6.
Wait, what? Wait,
that's like an always pick there. Yeah.
Wait, bottom of that's gonna get moved up real quickly. Yeah, I hope.
I don't know about real quickly. I will go with eventually before 2020.
I thought about what I said.
Okay, are people have to be picking Scribe now at insane rates? It's been too long. Like we're no longer talking about like I don't know. Hogsteed and Scribe, like
Hogsteed
next.
Scribe. Those are my 2 insta picks.
Yeah,
I always tell chap don't insta pick, but when's the last time you've skipped a Hogsteed or a Scribe?
You gotta. I mean, come on, Blizzard. Okay.
I feel like even though they have the data, they're like waiting for something. Like why? Just change it. Like who's gonna complain? It's been a week, since we changed, we can't change. No, just change it. Like, fix the stuff and it's broken.
The sad part is, I'm sure at this point, because it's been so long, their data is not showing what we want their data to show. Their data is showing that people, just are not valuing death rattles correctly. Like, death rattles that generate 1/1s, and they just think they suck more than they do.
People really don't think much.
Yeah, remember Violet Worm? Why that was dominating the meta? It's because people casuals don't pick it. Okay.
I remember that legendary run where we had Merps on for a 3-way. That's so good. Yeah, no, another worm. Harris, don't worry. It's like
Yeah, it blew my mind. I was like,
when we
wait.
hit 7 violet worms, we'll talk. It's fine. Just
I
pick
was
more
just like,
worms. We're good.
It was like pick number 6, and you guys were just like third worm. Excellent.
Nice. Third worm. Yeah.
Third worm. I was
Easy
like,
12.
what is going on? My mind was blown. All right.
All
So,
right.
anyways,
Final card that they're adding, and this is I love this design. We have like the same exact design for one of our classes in Gods Unchained at 4 mana too, so it's like the same card. Now we're gonna look like we're copying Hearthstone again.
wow, way to copy them.
4 mana, 3/3, Plaguebringer. Battlecry, give a friendly minion poisonous. Such a basic design.
This looks super good.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't understand. It's
I think right now it's sort of comparable to Crazed Chemist when you use Crazed Chemist to trade up, but it's so much easier to play down a turn earlier.
So this is bottom of the 5th bucket.
It's too low.
Holy crap. Okay.
Too
I know.
low.
I know, guys.
Wait.
totally
You guys
agree.
think this is going to be like insanely good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I think it's gonna be like, I don't think this is gonna be that much over 100 on the
Okay,
tier
so,
list.
so it's like every minion is
You'll
a 1/1
learn
Murloc.
soon.
Every minion is a 1/1 Murloc and they have to open in their hand. Right? Versus Rogue. So yeah, it's so awkward.
I will say this. I totally agree with Shady and Collins. If we are talking about this meta right now, like if it is today's meta, Plaguebringer is like just the nuts. It's so good with all the miscreants generating lackeys, the cable rats generating lackeys, the random 1/1s on the board from scribes and hog steeds. But there have been metas in which rogues have played kind of slow, right? Dagger on 2, some ones, and then play a little bit more mid-range. Like during the age of 3/4s, right? Rogues sometimes also played in that style as well, Dagger, and then just like Spider Tank on Spider Tank. And in those cases, like I see that this card not being as good. But if we had Plaguebringer in this meta today, I think it would be insane. Yeah.
The thing you're not also like thinking about is AoE minions, right? Like missile launcher kind of stuff. Just missile
Oh
launcher,
god,
Plaguebringer.
missile launcher combos.
Yeah,
Wild-
and like
wild
Wild Pyromancer as
Yeah.
well, right? Just there are problematic combos that I guess you're not considering as well that just make this
That's
card
true.
Knife
Probably.
juggler.
knife
Oh.
exactly.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
Insane combos aside, it's giving up 3 stats. It's usually not going to be great on curve. It's going to be great on curve like less than half the time, like probably more than a third, less than half the time. It's going to be worse than a normal 4-drop. And it's giving up 3 stats regardless that will be basically transferred into the stats of whatever it's buffing. So what are you killing, right? Like you got to have something that's 6 health. If your thing has like a 1/1's obviously really good because you give it like 3 stats. That's like 4, right? You have 4 total, and you're gonna hit something that has more than 4 health. You could probably do that, but if you're even doing that exact stat translation, it's still not terribly great because you can't go face with it. So maybe you need like 5 stats. So now you need even at a 1/1, you needed to kill something that has at least 5 health, which is totally doable. But now what if you have to buff something with 2 attack? Right now you need 6 to like just break even, and if you have 3, it's already kind of not worth it unless you could actually get a big guy. Like I think it's gonna be more situational than you think, even in this meta.
It's a sea giant counter every time, right? They play sea giant. I got this. You're dead. It's dead every time, right? Because of how sea giant works, right? It's just gonna.
Well, it's a sea giant if you play sea giant defensively. If you're the one with more things on the board, you play sea giant and you clear their board, right?
Okay. I mean, but I'm thinking like turn 5, right? Like you play the sea giant turn 5, right? You're not gonna be able to clear most of the time.
So do you guys like Plague Scientist more or less than this card?
This is better.
I think I like Plague Scientist more.
I think it's
So
very
most of the-
close, but I like Plague Scientist a little more too.
So my reasoning is like you don't need this to be that expensive and clunky and big for it to work because usually you don't want to Plague Scientist on 3 or 4 anyway.
Mhm.
So turn 5, you like 2-drop Scientist, poison something, trade, and you haven't made as big an investment. Whereas this might be like a bit clunky if you do want to poison on 5, you're floating a mana. On 6, you might just be playing a 3/3 and a dagger. So I don't think it's going to be bad, and it's like how Merps said it earlier, faster meta it would be better. But I think I like Scientist more.
I like this one better because it's more flexible in terms of I don't have to use the combo, and because my decks are naturally heavier than maybe some of your guys's, so you could use Plague Scientist very easily. I would always have problems with Plague Scientist. I was like, I can't actually play this because I can't combo
Yeah,
with all the 4-drops in my hand. So that's
are you on the board enough then to use this one though?
I just need a 1/1. You know, I can manipulate the board state where I have, you know, he doesn't want to trade into a 1/1, then I punish him. You know, I can do it. You know, let the god arena.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this card better than this one, but it's just based on my playstyle.
Yeah,
So that's
I'm gonna
good.
cop out and say that this is totally meta dependent, and I laid out sort of the things that we have to consider for this one. So I think in some metas you definitely prefer the Scientist, and in some metas you definitely prefer this one. It's just hard to say, but they're both pretty good, and I do agree they're like fairly close.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. That's what happens when you have good design, right? You have a lot of discussion. There are other cards. There's other things you can do about it. I like the card. I don't think it's going to be terribly great, but it's probably going to be draftable in its.
I think it's
in its
under
bucket.
bucketed.
I don't think it's under bucketed. I think it's correctly, potentially even a little over bucketed. It's bottom of 5th, right? You said, Merps?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's potentially even a little over bucketed on bottom of 5th.
I disagree.
Disagree over here.
I was
Too.
gonna bring those 4 Plague guys. 12-0. Be like, oh, baby.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, that's all the new cards. So, what is your favorite card out of all of these?
They all suck.
Bright Wing, because it's gonna have the best voice by far. By far, Bright Wing is gonna make like some cute little dragon noise, or I'm hoping it'll talk.
You're
say
probably
something.
right.
Yeah, it's gonna be Bright Wing.
I think
the
it
white
will trade
main.
for me.
I'll take the white main. Keep to it. It's the cutest card here.
That's true.
Yeah.
Alright.
Shady, I didn't really hear what your answer was.
The Infiltrator, the secret destruction guy.
Oh, wow. The guy that's good on curve and is a vanilla with upside. Oof.
Seems
That's
like
an
a
Adam
card
answer.
I enjoy drafting. Punish those secret picking people.
I'm gonna go with Righteousness. I like it because it's not good, but still, I like its power level and what it does, and I also like how it forces, it brings the paladin more into a on the board multi buff.
You know what this card reminds me of?
What?
Bloodlust. I don't know. That's what I get out of it.
5 mana, give all your minions something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bloodlust.
It's not about ending the game though. This is about continuously trading the board, which is which is what paladins do. Which is what paladins continuously do. And I also like that part of it, right? But you can also take it and just go face, right? What are they going to do to you? You have a whole bunch of things with Divine Shield on them. They're not clearing you. If they don't have a taunt, they're screwed. So yeah, I like the design of Righteousness. And I also like that it's not powerful. Both of those are necessary. If they designed the card and made it 4 mana, and it was like a low premium card at that point, I think, I would hate it.
Or give your minions Divine Shield and 1/1.
Oh,
and
God.
then it's OP.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, at that point, you gotta, Gift of the Wild and make it 8 mana.
What? Yeah, you know what? Why not have 5, basically Seal of Champs on everything for 5 mana, you know?
Yeah. Plus 3 attack.
Plus 3 attack, Divine Shield on everything, and just bump it up to 5 mana.
It's really Bloodlust.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's almost as good as Muster for Battle, but just not quite
close. All right. We've gone for 2 hours. It's been quite a while. First of all, do you guys have anything else to say about the new cards? I'm gonna take that as a no. I will take
Kind
your
of exciting, right? I think sort of what they were going for, right? Nothing too meta breaking. Be careful, right? These guys need to be evergreen.
I know.
Mhm.
Gosh. People agreeing on stuff. That's not what we have a 4-person panel for. But thank you guys for being on here. So Shady and Collins, the champions, I'll ask you guys if you guys have any last words of wisdom for the audience, and if they want to see more of you guys, where can they find you?
Find me on Shady's channel. Every couple of times.
It's a good chance of that happening. Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's just twitch.tv/ShadyBunny. YouTube, it's Shadybunny Live, which is a bit ironic. Shadybunny was taken there. Yeah. And words of wisdom, just curve. Curve's so important right now. Probably more important than it has been in a long, long time. So
Words
think
of
the tiny-
wisdom. Ignore curve.
yes.
You don't need that to
Take
win these
all the
games.
shovel fist.
All right.
Honestly, yeah, this isn't the meta for a control. So maybe next expansion you could ignore curve, but right now listen to the curve people. They make some sense.
Ah,
right.
Collins, what happened? I feel like I'm
tried
taking on
first
your
and
mantle now.
I got wrecked multiple times. So I can't. Okay, so I could probably play like safe control, but
Mhm.
why go safe control at all? Just if I have to, if I have to compromise on my strats, then screw it. We're just gonna go aggro, pick the winning style.
If Collins is taking 2/2 drops in his deck, he's gonna take 8 of them.
Exactly.
All
Collins
right.
has principles to uphold. But for the audience, I think the real lesson for today is find yourself someone who synergizes with you as well as Collins and Shady synergize with each other.
You're not gonna find that. So tell you right now.
All right. Adulta, take us away.
All right. Well, that's it for tonight. Thank you guys for listening or watching. Until next time, this is Adwicta.
This is Merps. See you guys.
Hello. Bye bye.